Stoic mindfulness in a world of constant notifications. Your phone buzzes. Another notification. The average person checks their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes. We're drowning in a sea of alerts, messages, and updates that fracture our attention and hijack our peace. But what if I told you that ancient philosophers had already solved this modern crisis? The Stoics understood something profound about human attention that tech companies spend billions exploiting. They knew that where your focus goes, your life follows. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to use Stoic principles to break free from the notification prison that's stealing your focus, your time, and ultimately, your life. This isn't about deleting all your apps. It's about regaining control of your mind in a world designed to capture it. Stoic philosophy for digital distraction. 1. The notification audit. Have you ever felt like your phone owns you instead of the other way around? That constant buzz, that never-ending stream of alerts demanding your attention. I used to think the solution was simple. Just turn off notifications. But that's like trying to solve a complex equation with basic arithmetic. What if I told you there's a philosophical approach that transforms how you interact with technology at a fundamental level? Let me guess. You've tried setting time limits. You've downloaded focus apps, maybe even locked your phone away. And yet, here you are, still feeling overwhelmed by the digital noise. That's because you're treating the symptom, not the cause. The real issue isn't the notifications themselves. It's your relationship with them. Today, I'm sharing 10 powerful Stoic-inspired techniques that will revolutionize your relationship with technology. These aren't quick fixes. They're profound shifts in how you approach digital distraction. And the first of these techniques is something I call the three-category sort. This isn't just about reducing notifications. It's about creating a personalized attention blueprint that aligns with what truly matters in your life. The ancient Stoics taught that we should focus our energy only on things within our control. Your attention is one of those things, but you've surrendered it to algorithms and app designers. Let me walk you through this first transformative technique, the notification audit. Instead of making random decisions about which notifications to keep, you'll systematically categorize every single alert into one of three buckets: life-critical, value-adding, or life-draining. Life-critical notifications are non-negotiable. These are emergency alerts, messages from immediate family, or work communications that genuinely can't wait. They represent perhaps 5% of what's currently bombarding you. Value-adding notifications actually enhance your life in meaningful ways. Perhaps a meditation reminder, messages from close friends, or tools that support your most important goals. These might comprise another 15%. That leaves the life-draining category, the vast majority of what's currently fragmenting your attention. These are the notifications that add nothing of substance to your existence, but extract precious moments of your limited life. Here's how to implement this right now. Go to your notification settings and list every app that sends you alerts. Be ruthless in your categorization. If an app doesn't truly serve your deeper values, it belongs in the life-draining category. Then, take immediate action. Eliminate all life-draining notifications, limit value-adding ones to specific times, and keep only the truly life-critical alerts in real time. What makes this approach different is that it's not just a technical adjustment. It's a philosophical stance on what deserves your attention. The ancient Stoics understood that our attention is our life. Where we place it determines who we become. By implementing the three-category sort technique, you're not just cleaning up your notification center. You're reclaiming the most precious resource you have, your capacity to focus on what truly matters. This is the first step toward digital liberation, but there's much more to discover. 2. The dichotomy of control protocol. Did you know the average person touches their phone 2,617 times per day? That's not just a statistic. It's a revelation about the state of modern attention. We've become digital jugglers, constantly tossing incoming messages, emails, and notifications into the air, rarely completing any single task with true presence. But what if there was a method to break this cycle? A philosophical framework that transforms how you handle information. The ancient Stoics had a principle that can revolutionize your digital life. It's called the dichotomy of control, the profound understanding that some things are within our power, while others are not. When applied to your digital world, this principle becomes a superpower. In this video, I've been sharing 10 life-changing techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to master digital distraction. The first was the 3-category sort for notifications. Now, I want to introduce you to the second powerful technique, the Touch Once decision matrix. This approach is deceptively simple, but requires real courage to implement. Here's the core idea. You only handle incoming information once, making an immediate decision about it. No more opening an email only to mark it unread. No more reading a message and saying, "I'll respond later." No more endless digital procrastination. When a notification arrives, you have just 3 options. Respond immediately, schedule a specific time to handle it, and stick to that commitment, or delete it. There is no fourth option. This method works because it aligns with the Stoic understanding of mental clarity. The philosopher Epictetus taught that we should never allow things external to us to dominate our minds. Yet that's exactly what happens when we leave digital items unresolved. They occupy mental space long after we've closed the app. Let me show you how this works in practice. When an email arrives, ask yourself, "Can I respond to this in under 2 minutes?" If yes, do it immediately. If it requires more time, schedule it in your calendar as a non-negotiable appointment. Respond to client proposal. Tuesday, 2 to 2:30 p.m. If it doesn't warrant either of these actions, delete it without hesitation. This approach requires initial courage, but yields immense freedom. You'll no longer carry the invisible weight of unresolved digital items. Your mind will be clearer, your focus sharper. The key is understanding what the Stoics recognized centuries ago, that indecision is a form of self-imposed suffering. When you maintain a backlog of digital items to deal with later, you're voluntarily carrying a burden that fragments your attention throughout the day. The Touch Once decision matrix eliminates this burden by forcing clarity. It transforms each notification from an open loop into a closed system. It converts digital chaos into structured purpose. Imagine ending each day with 0 unread messages, no pending notifications, and a mind free from digital clutter. This isn't just productivity, it's freedom. It's reclaiming your cognitive space from the tyranny of the unresolved. By applying this second Stoic technique to your digital life, you're not just managing information more efficiently. You're practicing a form of modern philosophy. You're declaring that your attention is too valuable to be fractured by indecision. This is the path to digital clarity. But we're just getting started. Digital premeditatio malorum. What if I told you that visualizing the worst possible outcome could be the key to breaking free from digital distraction? It sounds counterintuitive, right? But the ancient Stoics had a powerful technique called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, that can transform your relationship with technology when applied correctly. We've been exploring Stoic-inspired techniques to master the notifications and distractions that fragment our modern lives. We've covered the three-category sort for notification management and the touch-once decision matrix for handling incoming information. Now, I want to introduce you to the third transformative technique, digital premeditatio malorum. This isn't about setting simple time limits on your apps. Those are too easy to ignore or override. This is about creating emotional motivation for change by vividly confronting the consequences of continued digital distraction. Here's how it works. Take 5 minutes to engage in what I call the worst-case visualization practice. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and vividly imagine the long-term impact of your current digital habits projected 5 years into the future. See yourself missing crucial moments with loved ones because you're scrolling through a feed. Visualize the creative projects left unfinished because notifications interrupted your flow. Picture the opportunities missed because your attention was too fragmented to recognize them. Imagine the relationships that slowly withered because you gave your device the energy meant for connection. The power of this practice isn't in the broad strokes. It's in the specific details. Don't just think, "I'll waste time." Visualize the specific Monday evening when your child shares something important, but you only half listen while checking your phone. See the exact moment when your partner stops sharing their thoughts because your eyes keep darting to your screen. This technique works because the Stoics understood something profound about human motivation. We're more driven by emotional vividness than intellectual knowledge. You already know intellectually that excessive phone use isn't ideal, but intellectual knowledge rarely changes behavior. Emotional connection to consequences does. After visualizing these consequences in detail, write them down. Put this description somewhere you'll see it daily, perhaps as your phone's lock screen or on a note beside your computer. This serves as a philosophical reminder of what's truly at stake. What makes this approach different from generic advice to use your phone less is that it creates an emotional anchor for your decisions. When you feel the pull toward digital distraction, you now have a vivid counter-image that carries emotional weight. By practicing digital premeditatio malorum, you're not just setting arbitrary limits, you're connecting your daily choices to your deepest values. You're creating an emotional motivation that can sustain behavioral change long after the initial enthusiasm fades. This technique acknowledges what the Stoics knew centuries ago, that meaningful change requires both rational understanding and emotional commitment. By vividly confronting the worst-case scenario of continued digital distraction, you create the emotional fuel needed for lasting transformation. This is just the third of our 10 techniques, but already you're building a powerful philosophical framework for digital mastery. The Focus Fortress technique. Have you ever noticed how digital distractions seem to find you no matter where you go or what you're doing? That's not an accident. It's by design. Modern technology is engineered to pierce through your attention barriers. But what if you could build concentric layers of protection around your focus? A fortress that gets stronger the more important your work becomes? We've been exploring powerful Stoic-inspired techniques to reclaim our attention from digital distractions. So far, we've covered the three-category sort for notification management, the touch-once decision matrix for handling information, and digital premeditatio malorum for creating emotional motivation. Now it's time for the fourth transformative technique, the Focus Fortress. This isn't about creating a single barrier between yourself and distractions. That's too simplistic for the complex digital landscape we navigate. Instead, you'll build what I call concentric circles of attention, progressively stronger boundaries that align with the importance of your current task. Here's how it works. Imagine your attention as a castle with multiple layers of defense. The outermost wall allows certain notifications through when you're engaged in low-stakes activities. The middle wall permits only the most important interruptions when you're doing valuable but not critical work. And the innermost sanctum, your attention's holy ground, allows absolutely nothing to penetrate when you're engaged in your most meaningful pursuits. Let me make this concrete. Start by categorizing your activities into 3 levels of importance: routine, significant, and essential. For routine activities, checking email, light research, administrative tasks, your outer attention wall allows scheduled notifications from your value-adding category. For significant work, solving important problems, meaningful conversations, creative thinking, your middle wall blocks all but life-critical notifications. You might activate this mode by putting your phone in another room and using website blockers. But it's the innermost sanctum, reserved for your most essential work, where this technique truly transforms your experience. Here, you create what the Stoics would recognize as a sacred space for undivided attention. Turn off all devices, inform key people you'll be unreachable, and create physical barriers between yourself and potential interruptions. Some people even use different physical spaces for different attention levels, a specific chair or room that's psychologically associated with deep focus. What makes this approach different from typical advice is that it's not one size fits all. It acknowledges that different activities require different levels of protection, and it creates a systematic way to align your boundaries with what truly matters. This technique works because it addresses a fundamental insight of Stoic philosophy, that we must create external structures that support our internal values. The Stoics understood that human willpower alone is insufficient. We need environments that reinforce our deepest intentions. By implementing the Focus Fortress technique, you're not just blocking notifications. You're creating a physical and digital architecture that honors your most important work. You're saying to the world, "My attention is precious, and I allocate it deliberately according to what truly matters." Imagine completing your most important work in a state of flow, undisturbed by the digital world's constant demands. Imagine the depth of thought and quality of output that becomes possible when your attention remains intact. This isn't just productivity. It's a philosophical stance on how human attention should be protected in the digital age. This 4th technique builds upon the previous 3, creating a comprehensive system for attention management. But there's still much more to learn about mastering digital distraction through ancient wisdom. 5. Stoic Pause Practice. Have you ever reached for your phone automatically, without even thinking about it? That space between stimulus and response, between the notification and your reaction, is where your freedom lies. But in our hyper-connected world, that space has collapsed to almost nothing. What if you could rebuild it, creating a mindful barrier that lets you choose your response rather than just react? We've been exploring powerful techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to master digital distractions. We've covered the 3-category sort: the touch-once decision matrix, digital premeditatio malorum, and the Focus Fortress technique. Now it's time for the 5th transformative practice, the Stoic Pause. This isn't just about taking a deep breath before checking your phone, although that's of it. This is about creating a systematic practice that inserts deliberate consciousness between stimulus and response. Let me introduce you to what I call the 3-3-3 breathing gate. Here's how it works. Before checking any notification or reflexively reaching for your device, pause for 3 conscious breaths. During those breaths, ask yourself 3 questions related to your 3 core values. First, identify your 3 most essential values, perhaps family, creativity, and health. Then, when a notification arrives, Take your first breath and ask, "Does checking this serve my commitment to my family?" Take your second breath and ask, "Does this align with my creative aspirations?" Take your third breath and ask, "Will this enhance or diminish my well-being?" This practice works because it creates what psychologists call a pattern interrupt. It breaks the automatic cycle of stimulus and response. But it goes further by actively reconnecting you with your deepest values at precisely the moment when you're most likely to abandon them. The ancient Stoics understood something profound about human behavior, that freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's having the capacity to align your actions with your values. The 3-3-3 breathing gate creates the necessary space for that alignment. What makes this approach different from generic mindfulness advice is that it's specifically designed for our notification-saturated environment, and it directly connects the pause to your personal values. It's not meditation for its own sake. It's philosophical practice applied to a modern challenge. Start implementing this today by writing your 3 core values on a small card near your devices. Each time you feel the urge to check notifications, use this as a trigger for your 3-3-3 practice. At first, you'll need to consciously remember to do this, but over time, the pause itself becomes automatic. The results can be profound. Users of this technique report not just reduced screen time, but a fundamental shift in their relationship with technology. They describe feeling back in control and more intentional with their digital interactions. Imagine transforming each notification from a commanding demand for attention into an opportunity for philosophical reflection. Imagine reclaiming the space between stimulus and response, what the Stoics would recognize as the essence of human freedom. By practicing the Stoic pause technique, you're not just changing your habits, you're reclaiming your autonomy in the digital age. You're declaring that between every notification and your response lies a sacred space of choice. And in that space, you reconnect with what truly matters to you. This 5th technique builds on the previous. 4. Creating a comprehensive approach to digital mastery. But we're only halfway through our journey of applying ancient wisdom to modern challenges. 6. The virtue-based screen time strategy. What if I told you that counting minutes on your phone is missing the point entirely? Most digital wellness approaches focus on quantity, reducing your screen time from 3 hours to 2. But the ancient Stoics would find this approach superficial. They would ask a more profound question. Not how much time you spend on your devices, but how that time shapes your character. We've been exploring powerful techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to transform our relationship with technology. We've covered 5 techniques so far, and now it's time for the 6th transformative approach. The virtue-based screen time strategy. This isn't about tracking minutes. It's about measuring your digital interaction against the 4 cardinal virtues that Stoics believed were essential to a good life: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. This approach completely reframes the conversation about healthy technology use. Here's how it works. Instead of focusing on reducing screen time, you'll evaluate each app and digital activity using what I call the Virtue Alignment Score. For each application on your device, ask, does this platform help me develop wisdom? Does it promote justice? Does it exercise my courage? Does it cultivate temperance? Take social media as an example. Rather than arbitrarily limiting yourself to 30 minutes daily, assess how different platforms affect your character. Perhaps one social network consistently exposes you to new ideas and perspectives, developing your wisdom. Another might connect you with opportunities to support important causes, exercising justice. But a third might routinely trigger anxiety and judgment, undermining your temperance. This approach works because it addresses what the Stoics understood centuries ago. that human flourishing comes not from arbitrary limitations, but from alignment with deeper virtues. The question isn't whether Instagram is good or bad, it's whether your particular use of Instagram is developing or diminishing your character. What makes this technique powerful is that it personalizes your digital boundaries based on your unique character development needs. It acknowledges that the same app might serve virtue in one person's life, while undermining it in another's. To implement this today, create a simple spreadsheet listing all your apps and digital platforms. Rate each on how well it serves each of the 4 virtues on a scale from -5, actively undermines this virtue, to +5, actively develops this virtue. Calculate the total score for each app. Those with negative scores are prime candidates for elimination or strict limitation. The results can be surprising. Often, the apps you spend the most time on score the lowest on virtue alignment. Conversely, digital tools you've neglected might offer significant opportunities for character development. Imagine transforming your relationship with technology from a numbers game, "I need to use my phone less," to a philosophical practice, "I use technology in ways that develop excellence of character." This shift doesn't just change your screen time, it changes what screens mean in your life. By implementing the virtue-based screen time strategy, you're not just managing minutes, you're cultivating what the Stoics would call eudaimonia, or human flourishing, through your digital choices. You're declaring that technology should serve your development as a human being, not detract from it. This 6th technique builds on the previous 5, creating a comprehensive philosophy of technology use. But there are still more powerful approaches to discover in our exploration of ancient wisdom for modern challenges. 7. The Memento Mori Morning Method. What if the first 5 minutes of your morning could transform your entire relationship with digital distraction? Most productivity experts talk about morning routines. Check your email at this time. Schedule social media for that time. But they miss something profound that the ancient Stoics understood. Without confronting our mortality, we lack the context to make wise decisions about our attention. We've been exploring powerful techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to transform our digital lives. We've covered 6 approaches so far, and now it's time for the 7th transformative practice, the Memento Mori Morning Method. This isn't just another morning routine, it's a profound philosophical practice that frames your digital decisions within the context of your finite existence. Memento Mori, remember that you will die, was a central contemplation for Stoic philosophers, not to induce fear, but to inspire meaningful action. Here's how it works. Begin each day by visualizing the finite nature of your life. This isn't morbid, it's clarifying. Take 3 minutes upon waking to contemplate that your time on earth is limited, perhaps visualizing your life as a calendar with a finite number of boxes, some already filled in. From this place of clarity, create what I call a death perspective priority list, a daily list of what truly deserves your attention when viewed through the lens of your mortality. This becomes your compass for navigating the countless notifications and demands that will soon compete for your focus. The power of this approach is that it creates an immediate emotional connection to what matters most before digital distraction can fragment your attention. When a notification arrives later in the day, you can ask, "Does this deserve a portion of my limited life energy? Would my future self, looking back, want me to have given my attention to this?" This technique works because it addresses what psychologists call temporal discounting, our tendency to value immediate rewards over future benefits. By making mortality visceral each morning, you reduce this cognitive bias and make decisions more aligned with your deeper values. What makes this approach different from typical productivity advice is that it's not about efficiency. It's about existential clarity. It's not trying to cram more activities into your day. It's ensuring that what you do aligns with the limited nature of existence. To implement this today, create a simple morning ritual. It might include reading a Stoic quote on mortality, visualizing your life's finite nature, and then writing your death perspective priority list before touching any digital device. Keep this list visible throughout your day as a philosophical North Star. The results can be profound. Practitioners report not just reduced screen time, but a fundamental shift in their relationship with digital distraction. One described it as suddenly seeing my notification feed for what it really is, mostly trivial demands for attention that I won't care about on my deathbed. Imagine beginning each day with crystal clarity about what truly deserves your focus. Imagine evaluating each notification against the backdrop of your finite existence. This isn't just time management, it's existential alignment. By implementing the memento mori morning method, you're not just organizing your day, you're ensuring that your limited attention goes toward what will matter when you look back on your life. You're declaring that in a world designed to distract you with the trivial, you will focus on the essential. This seventh technique builds on the previous six, creating a comprehensive philosophy for living well in the digital age. But we have three more powerful approaches to explore in our journey through Stoic wisdom for modern challenges. 8. The Meta-Awareness Training Protocol. Have you ever found yourself mindlessly scrolling through your phone, only to wake up 15 minutes later, wondering how you got there? That gap in awareness is the breeding ground for digital distraction. What if you could develop the ability to watch your own cravings for notifications as they arise, creating space between impulse and action? We've been exploring powerful techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to transform our digital lives. We've covered 7 approaches so far, and now it's time for the 8th transformative practice, the Meta-Awareness Training Protocol. This isn't about using willpower to resist the urge to check your phone. That's a battle most of us lose repeatedly. Instead, this is about developing what I call the observer self-practice, the ability to watch your own craving for digital stimulation with curious detachment rather than immediate action. Here's how it works. When you feel the urge to check notifications, rather than either indulging or suppressing it, take a metacognitive step back. Name the specific emotion driving the impulse. This is anticipation. This is fear of missing out. This is boredom. This is procrastination. Simply labeling the emotion creates crucial distance between feeling and action. The ancient Stoics understood something profound about human psychology, that we are not our impulses, we are the awareness that observes them. By developing this observer capacity, you transform your relationship with digital cravings. What makes this approach different from typical advice about digital discipline is that it doesn't fight against your impulses. It works with them by transforming how you relate to them. The goal isn't to never feel the urge to check your phone, it's to create space between urge and action. To implement this technique today, set hourly awareness triggers on your phone or computer. When the trigger sounds, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Am I craving digital stimulation? If so, what specific emotion is driving it? Simply observe the feeling without judgment before deciding whether to act on it. As you practice this regularly, something with deep focus. What makes this approach different from typical advice is that it's not one size fits all. It acknowledges that different activities require different levels of protection, and it creates a systematic way to align your boundaries with what truly matters. This technique works because it addresses a fundamental insight of Stoic philosophy, that we must create external structures that support our internal values. The Stoics understood that human willpower alone is insufficient. We need environments that reinforce our deepest intentions. By implementing the Focus Fortress technique, you're not just blocking notifications. You're creating a physical and digital architecture that honors your most important work. You're saying to the world, "My attention is precious, and I allocate it deliberately according to what truly matters." Imagine completing your most important work in a state of flow, undisturbed by the digital world's constant demands. Imagine the depth of thought and quality of output that becomes possible when your attention remains intact. This isn't just productivity. It's a philosophical stance on how human attention should be protected in the digital age. This fourth technique builds upon the previous three, creating a comprehensive system for attention management. But there's still much more to learn about mastering digital distraction through ancient wisdom. 5. Stoic Pause Practice. Have you ever reached for your phone automatically, without even thinking about it? That space between stimulus and response, between the notification and your reaction, is where your freedom lies. But in our hyper-connected world, that space has collapsed to almost nothing. What if you could rebuild it, creating a mindful barrier that lets you choose your response rather than just react? We've been exploring powerful techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to master digital distractions. We've covered the three-category sort, the touch-once decision matrix, digital premeditatio malorum, and the Focus Fortress technique. Now it's time for the fifth transformative practice, the Stoic pause. This isn't just about taking a deep breath before checking your phone, although that's of it. This is about creating a systematic practice that inserts deliberate consciousness between stimulus and response. Let me introduce you to what I call the 3-3-3 breathing gate. Here's how it works. Before checking any notification or reflexively reaching for your device, pause for 3 conscious breaths. During those breaths, ask yourself 3 questions related to your 3 core values. First, identify your 3 most essential values, perhaps family, creativity, and health. Then, when a notification arrives, take your first breath and ask, "Does checking this serve my commitment to my family?" Take your second breath and ask, "Does this align with my creative aspirations?" Take your third breath and ask, "Will this enhance or diminish my well-being?" This practice works because it creates what psychologists call a pattern interrupt. It breaks the automatic cycle of stimulus and response. But it goes further by actively reconnecting you with your deepest values at precisely the moment when you're most likely to abandon them. The ancient Stoics understood something profound about human behavior, that freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's having the capacity to align your actions with your values. The 3-3-3 breathing gate creates the necessary space for that alignment. What makes this approach different from generic mindfulness advice is that it's specifically designed for our notification-saturated environment, and it directly connects the pause to your personal values. It's not meditation for its own sake. It's philosophical practice applied to a modern challenge. Start implementing this today by writing your 3 core values on a small card near your devices. Each time you feel the urge to check notifications, use this as a trigger for your 3-3-3 practice. At first, you'll need to consciously remember to do this, but over time, the pause itself becomes automatic. The results can be profound. Users of this technique report not just reduced screen time, but a fundamental shift in their relationship with technology. They describe feeling back in control and more intentional with their digital interactions. Imagine transforming each notification from a commanding demand for attention into an opportunity for philosophical reflection. Imagine reclaiming the space between stimulus and response, what the Stoics would recognize as the essence of human freedom. By practicing the Stoic pause technique, you're not just changing your habits, you're reclaiming your autonomy in the digital age. You're declaring that between every notification and your response lies a sacred space of choice. And in that space, you reconnect with what truly matters to you. This fifth technique builds on the previous. Remarkable happens. You begin to notice patterns in your digital cravings. Perhaps you reach for your phone whenever a challenging task arises, or maybe social anxiety triggers a check of social media. These insights become powerful tools for transformation. The results can be profound. Practitioners of this technique report not just reduced reactivity to notifications, but a fundamental shift in their relationship with technology. One described it as finally feeling like I'm choosing when to use my phone, rather than being chosen by it. Imagine moving through your day with awareness of the emotional drivers behind your technology use. Imagine watching your own cravings arise and dissolve without needing to act on each one. This isn't just self-control, it's self-knowledge applied to the digital realm. By implementing the meta-awareness training protocol, you're not just managing your screen time, you're developing what philosophers throughout history have recognized as one of the highest human capacities, the ability to observe your own mind. You're declaring that in a world designed to trigger unconscious reactions, you will remain awake and aware. This eighth technique builds on the previous seven, creating a comprehensive approach to digital mastery through ancient wisdom. But we still have two more powerful practices to explore in our journey. 9. The social circle commitment system. What if the key to transforming your digital habits isn't technology at all, but the people around you? We often think of notification management as a private battle, just you against your devices. But the ancient Stoics understood something profound. True change requires community. They practiced philosophy not as isolated individuals, but as members of a philosophical community that reinforced their highest values. We've been exploring powerful techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to transform our digital lives. We've covered 8 approaches so far, and now it's time for the 9th transformative practice, the social circle commitment system. This isn't about finding generic accountability partners who track your screen time metrics. This is about creating what I call philosophical accountability partners, people who help enforce your digital boundaries while reminding you of your deeper purpose when distraction tempts. Here's how it works. Identify 2 to 3 people who share your concern about digital distraction and understand the deeper values at stake. These might be friends, family members, or colleagues. Together, create explicit agreements about how you'll support each other's digital boundaries. For example, you might agree to check in weekly about your notification management, or commit to phone-free dinners together, or create a system where you text each other before and after deep work sessions. But what makes this approach truly powerful is that these people don't just track your behavior. They reconnect you with your why. The key is to share with your philosophical accountability partners the deeper reasons behind your digital boundaries. Perhaps you're limiting notifications to be more present with your children, or to create space for meaningful work, or to reduce anxiety. When distraction tempts, these partners can remind you of these deeper motivations, not just that you're breaking your rule. This technique works because it addresses what the Stoics understood centuries ago, that humans are fundamentally social creatures who calibrate their behavior to their community. When your phone lights up with a notification, you're not just fighting against technology, You're navigating complex social expectations. By explicitly reshaping those expectations with key people, you transform the social context of your digital choices. What makes this approach different from typical advice about digital habits is that it doesn't treat technology use as an individual choice made in isolation. It recognizes that our digital behaviors exist within social systems that either reinforce or undermine our intentions. To implement this today, identify your potential philosophical accountability partners and invite them to a conversation about mutual support for thoughtful technology use. Create specific agreements about how you'll help each other maintain digital boundaries and, most importantly, how you'll reconnect each other with the deeper values at stake. The results can be transformative. Practitioners report not just better adherence to their digital boundaries, but a profound shift in how they think about technology use, from a private consumer choice to a philosophical stance with social implications. Imagine having people in your life who genuinely understand and support your efforts to use technology more intentionally. Imagine the strength that comes from facing digital distraction not as an isolated individual, but as of a community committed to deeper values. This isn't just habit change. It's cultural transformation at the micro level. By implementing the social circle commitment system, you're not just managing your notifications, you're creating what the Stoics would recognize as a philosophical community of practice. You're declaring that in a world where digital distraction is normalized, you and your circle will support each other in choosing a different path. This ninth technique builds on the previous 8, creating a comprehensive approach to digital mastery through wisdom, both ancient and modern. But we have one more powerful practice to explore in our journey. 10. The hedonic reset ritual. What if the real problem isn't your notifications, but your brain's reward system itself? We've been exploring ways to manage external stimuli, but what about the internal craving for digital dopamine hits? The ancient Stoics understood that human flourishing requires recalibrating our sources of pleasure, training ourselves to find joy in what truly matters rather than in fleeting stimulation. We've covered 9 powerful techniques inspired by Stoic philosophy to transform our digital lives. Now it's time for the 10th and final transformative practice, the hedonic reset ritual. This isn't a standard digital detox that you endure for a weekend before returning to the same patterns. This is what I call a progressive sensory restoration practice, a systematic approach to rebuilding your brain's reward system from the ground up. Here's how it works. Over the course of 30 days, you progressively replace artificial dopamine triggers with natural ones. The process begins with a 72-hour complete digital fast. No phones, computers, or screens of any kind. This initial phase isn't the goal, it's just the reset button. From there, you systematically reintroduce technology while simultaneously amplifying natural sources of pleasure and meaning. Each day, engage in what the Stoics called simple pleasures, activities that generate genuine satisfaction without digital stimulation. These might include extended time in nature, deep conversations without devices present, physical exertion, craftsmanship, or contemplative practices. The key is to approach this not as deprivation, but as restoration. You're not giving up digital pleasure. You're rediscovering more sustainable and fulfilling sources of reward. During this period, you'll notice something profound. As your sensitivity to natural pleasures increases, your craving for digital stimulation naturally decreases. This technique works because it addresses what neuroscientists now understand about reward pathway recalibration. Your brain has been trained through thousands of notification checks to seek the quick hit of novel information. But this same neuroplasticity can work in reverse. With systematic practice, You can train your brain to derive deeper satisfaction from activities aligned with your values. What makes this approach different from typical digital detox advice is that it's not about enduring temporary discomfort for its own sake. It's about purposefully engineering a reset of your pleasure response system. The goal isn't just to use technology less, it's to want to use it less because you've rediscovered more fulfilling alternatives. To implement this today, calendar a 30-day period for your hedonic reset. Plan the first 72 hours as a complete digital fast, with arrangements for emergency contact if necessary. Then create a progressive reintroduction schedule alongside daily natural pleasure practices. Document your experience throughout, especially noting changes in how different activities feel as your sensitivity recalibrates. The results can be life-changing. Practitioners report not just healthier technology habits, but a fundamental shift in what they find rewarding. One described it as suddenly realizing how bland scrolling feels compared to activities that engage my full humanity. Imagine experiencing social media not as irresistibly engrossing, but as somewhat hollow compared to the richness of undistracted conversation or nature immersion. Imagine notifications losing their gravitational pull because you've reconnected with deeper sources of meaning and pleasure. This isn't just behavior modification. It's reclaiming your capacity for genuine fulfillment. By implementing the hedonic reset ritual, you're not just changing habits, you're engaging in what philosophers throughout history have recognized as essential work, training your desires toward what truly satisfies. You're declaring that in a world engineered to make you crave constant digital stimulation, you will recalibrate your sources of joy. This 10th technique completes our exploration of Stoic-inspired practices for digital mastery. Together, these approaches offer a comprehensive philosophy for living well in the attention economy. Conclusion. As we reach the end of our journey through these 10 Stoic-inspired techniques for mastering digital distraction, I want you to remember something crucial. This isn't just about reducing screen time or managing notifications. It's about aligning your digital life with your deepest values, about ensuring that technology serves your human flourishing rather than diminishing it. We began with the 3-category sort to create your personalized attention blueprint. We explored the touch once decision matrix to eliminate digital indecision. We practiced digital premeditatio malorum to visualize the consequences of distraction and built our focus fortress with concentric layers of protection. We implemented the Stoic pause practice to create space between stimulus and response, and developed a virtue-based screen time strategy that measures apps against wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. We started each day with the memento mori morning method to frame our choices within the context of our finite existence. We cultivated meta-awareness to observe our digital cravings without immediately acting on them. We created a social circle commitment system to transform personal intentions into shared values. And finally, we reset our brain's reward system through the hedonic reset ritual. These practices aren't quick fixes or surface-level productivity hacks. They're philosophical approaches to one of the defining challenges of our time: maintaining human autonomy and purpose in an age engineered for distraction. The ancient Stoics understood something we're rediscovering today, that the quality of our attention determines the quality of our lives. By applying their timeless wisdom to our modern challenges, we reclaim not just our time and focus, but our capacity for meaningful living. I invite you to start with just one of these techniques today. Notice how it changes not just your behavior, but your relationship with technology itself. From there, gradually incorporate others until you've built a comprehensive philosophy of digital living that serves your highest aspirations. Because in the end, Mastering digital distraction isn't about what you're turning away from. It's about what you're turning toward, a life of presence, purpose, and philosophical alignment in the digital age.